Hello everyone and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. In this our June 3rd, 2024 show, unfortunately we were going to have a special guest with Josephine Campbell, the co-producer and writer of My Adventures with Superman, with us tonight. Unfortunately, she has had to pull out last minute due to illness, and we're hoping to reschedule with her for next week. I haven't had that confirmed yet. So Michael and I are pushing ahead with a regular Superman Homepage Live. We scrambled at the last minute. We've pulled everything together. We've to take a term out of the Friends pilot episode. We've had to pivot and pivot. And, realign what we were going to do tonight, pull it all together. We've got everything ready to go. Unfortunately, Mark Lax isn't with us either this week. He was unable to be part of the show this week due to scheduling issues. So just Michael and I together again, doing a regular Superman Homepage Live, and fair bit to get through. So how are you, Michael?
I'm fine. I think we need to stop covering for Mark. We know that he's really on the run from the federal government, going from town to town and helping people along the way. We just have to, he gets with us when he can, but no, I'm doing fine. I was actually talking to somebody earlier today, that we're still in a really good position Superman wise. That just makes me happy that we can come here week after week and actually have good stuff to talk about instead of like pulling teeth with things.
So true. All right. So this is how this is what we've got coming tonight. We're going to do a review of the third episode of season 2 of My Adventures with Superman. We're going to be talking about the Kent farm for the upcoming Superman movie. We have got This Week in History. We've got the fan favorite question. We're even going to be doing the Henry Cavill Superman costume analysis. Got all that together within a half hour notification of Josephine pulling out of tonight's episode. So we're winging it, folks, but we will just manage somehow because we always do. We want to thank our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. Thank you for your support. And if you'd like to join those fine folks and be a supporter of the Superman homepage, then you can click the join button on YouTube. There are different levels of membership with different levels of perks. Or you could go to patreon.com/Superman homepage and become a patron there. We appreciate any support that you can give us. And if you want to get involved in tonight's show, Michael's going to tell you just exactly how you do that.
It's really simple. You go to supermanhomepage.com/live and press the call now button. And there you'll be put in the green room. And if we take calls halfway through the show, that's where we'll do that. You can also use your smartphone to scan the QR code that's right next to me. And you'll be taken to the same place, same thing. Now, if you are using your computer and you're using an external speaker to listen to us, please mute that if we do have you on, because we're on a bit of a delay. And if you're using your smartphone, please use your microphone, headset, AirPods, whatever you use, because, speakerphone does not work for what we want to do.
Yeah, that's so true. So, yes, that's a great way to get involved in tonight's show. If you're a little bit shy and don't want to get on the phone tonight and you'd prefer to just participate in the comments, then Michael and I can keep an eye on what you're saying there. We can react to any comments or questions you might have, and we'll be able to answer them throughout the show as necessary. And, so get involved in that way as well if that's something that you're keen to do. We'd love to hear from you because we love our live viewers participating in the show, spending this next hour with us. We thank you very much. Appreciate your company. All right, Michael, let's get into tonight's topics. We're going to start with the movie side of things like we usually do. And filming is taking place in, is it LaGrange in Georgia?
LaGrange. You got it. Right pronunciation first time.
There you go. LaGrange is where supposedly they are filming on location for the Kent farm. Which I've heard a lot of disparaging comments. I don't know why. Folks are pretty nasty for some reason, but this is supposedly the photos. You can see on the top there the trucks and trailers and what have you that the production crew use, and then there underneath is the actual photo of the property people saying, oh, it's not, it's pretty bland. It's pretty, we've seen some really nice ones in like Superman and Lois has got like a 2-story house with a barn out the back and, a silo, all those kinds of things. This is this is a farmhouse. This is a farm. It's a house on a farm. What more do you need?
Yeah, and this is a very common looking farmhouse, especially in this area. If you
Mm-hmm.
go to the back roads and you're driving and you drive by the farms and such, this is the type of house you're going to see off the road. I think we're used to, um, not that I'm excusing the bad behavior because I never do, because I think people just need to, stop being jerks. But this is an actual house.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a set. This isn't a pretty farmhouse found in Vancouver that they filmed at again and again and again. Uh, I'm pretty sure that the farmhouse in Man of Steel was built because they put a truck in it. So in the Kent house in Superman and Lois, that's a set. That's not a working farmhouse. The fact that they actually are showing something that's real, I think, is throwing people because they've done such a really good job of messing with that or giving us a false sense of what these are. I mean, but even go like to Lois and Clark. There were shots of the Kent farmhouse and Lois and Clark that looked like it was out of a horror film. So I just, in Lagrange, it's to be fair, there isn't a small town outside of Atlanta that you wouldn't be able to find something like this with.
Yeah.
In all honesty, when I saw those pictures, I'm like, yeah, that looks like Lagrange.
Yeah. Well, it's people are saying, it's pretty. Buston says it's as Midwestern farms go. That's spot on. So, yeah, we're used to seeing a Hollywood version of the Kent farm. People saying no barn. I mean, we don't know if there's a barn there in the background somewhere. That who knows what's what. I mean, do corn farmers usually have a barn? I mean, I'm sure they put their tractor and everything in those kinds of things, so they might, but it might just be off-site. It might be somewhere closer to, where the actual farming happens. You just don't know what with a property, just where everything goes. Yeah, picturesquely, as far as, aesthetics go, everything's always usually in one location for, the way Hollywood does it, but most of the ones you've seen in the films and on TV, as you say, are sets that are built. They're not functioning, working actual houses, that as this appears to be.
Yeah, and if you want a barn, look outside my backyard. I mean, my father-in-law, my late father-in-law, had a giant red garage that looks kind of like a barn. So we had planned, if we had ever had children, which unfortunately we never did. I was going to place a rocket out there and put it under a tarp, and then have the kid discover it about 13, so that I could have the conversation.
Wow.
And Rachel was actually fully behind this plan, but no, it's just the
Peas in a
thing
pod.
that yeah, the thing that gets me about this whole thing is that I just, I know we're starved for information about the film because we've been so spoiled over the last 2 decades with comic book film news. I mean, I remember back when Man of Steel was being filmed, and you had shots of Plano, Illinois, and all that coming out, and it was just like every photo, every set photo, whatever, was just analyzed like it was a Zapruder film. And now we're just kind of seeing, the result of that continuing, and the fact that they are using locations
Mm.
instead of putting everything on a set, I think is probably adding further fuel to the fire, because it's a little easier to drive by those locations and get pictures like you see, like you just showed.
Hmm. So true. So, yep, that's where they're at with filming for in LaGrange, Georgia, for supposedly the Kent farmhouse and what looks like Smallville. All right, so that's all we've got really for the movie side of things. We now, well, just quickly, a couple of people saying, when did they settle on the Kents being farmers? and Butson saying he wants a movie with the Kents having a general store, which they did at certain points in comic book history. So there's always that you could go with. So yeah, interesting that we don't always have to have farmers, but yeah, they could be general store owners. But this does look like a house on a farm, so we're going
Hmm.
with that for the time being. All right, well, moving to the TV side of things, and as I said, unfortunately, Josephine Campbell was not unable to be with us tonight for our interview about My Adventures with Superman. So we do have the latest episode of the animated series to talk about. Actually, I just realised that I've skipped a topic that we need to discuss because while we're on James Gunn's Superman movie, there was a documentary announcement for a film called Secret Identity that is supposedly about the story of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And it's by Late Morning Films, and they're seeking the approval of James Gunn and DC Studios to get the project green lit. Um, I mean, this has been, there's quite a few people that we are friends with on social media in the Superman creators, content creator world who are pushing for this pretty heavily and are involved in some capacity. And Superman's Secret Identity, the origin of Superman, examines the early days of writer Jerry Siegel and artist Joe Shuster and shows how the character continues to inspire people around the world. Here's just a quick look at a little trailer that they released as part of this push to get James Gunn's interest.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
One night, I kept getting up again and again during the night and just jotting down these ideas.
Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's Superman!
Very early the next morning, I dashed over to Joe's house, which is about 10 blocks away. I showed him the script of Superman, the entirely new concept in which there would be a meek, mild-mannered reporter, Clark Kent.
So that's just a little bit of the trailer, the promotional material that they've put out there, trying to get James Gunn's attention about this Secret Identity documentary that they're hoping to get green lit. And if you're interested and want to help out, get the word out about this project, share the details across social media. Just check out Late Morning Films website and look for Secret Identity, and you'll be able to help them out, get the word out there.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty exciting, and I'm glad that they're making it an official documentary instead of doing kind of an unofficial one.
Mm.
Which with an official one, they get more access and are able to actually have more interesting visuals and such, and probably can get access to better interview subjects as well.
So true. So yes, we will continue to follow that project as it goes along and hope that people can help out promote it. All right, so as I said, My Adventures with Superman, episode 3 of season 2 was called Fullmetal Scientist, and this aired the morning, I like to say the morning of June 2nd rather than the night of June 1st because it is midnight, which is the morning. And there was a lot to unpack in this episode, starting with what appears to be a new superpower that I've never really seen Superman exhibit before. This ability to extend a force field around objects that he touches.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. My Rachel, when we watch these things, will always look to me like what is that? Where is that? What kind of obscure thing are they referencing? And I looked at her and I just shrugged, like new to me. um, I think we've had hints that he has some kind of energy based powers, which the way they're rolling it out, they're doing it slowly. I don't know if here's my theory that isn't actually a theory, but I'm gonna kind of throw it out there anyways. They're gonna go with the burn thing, that he has like a bio aura around him, and now he's able to extend it over people. I don't think that's it, but if they reveal it, I can be proven right later. I'm 50-50 on these things. I'm either dead right or absolutely wrong. But yeah, I saw that. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. That's it's I don't know how I feel about it because I
Mm.
don't like new powers. I mean, it's not like he was shooting rainbows out of his hands like on that one cover. Uh, though this month that might be a good time for him to do that.
True.
Uh, and and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I
No.
just I'm just surprised that they don't adopt that cover more in June. The thing is that it's tricky giving Superman new powers.
Mm.
His power set has been locked in for so many years, and yes, the things have evolved, but the big ones: strength and vulnerability, flight, heat vision, and all that. Doing this kind of energy type thing feels a little weird, but it might work with this show. I didn't think Superman having a brother, even a half brother, being revealed would ever work, and Superman and Lois proved me wrong on that.
Yeah, so whether it's an extension of his bioelectric aura that, as you mentioned, has been in the comic books, or something different, I'm not sure. But it was used heavily in this episode, not just at the beginning when he saved another name drop in Silas Stone, who is the father of obviously what will be future Cyborg, if they go continue down that way. But Victor Stone. But yeah, so Silas Stone was the man that he saved. And then he didn't have too much to do this episode other than having to delete a video. And then there was a bit of flashbacks with John Henry Irons, who was another name drop with Steel. Not that they actually called him Steel, but it was a Steel mech suit that he had invented and was hoping that Amatech would be using, but instead they went with the Metallo robots that were not as stable, but were not human. Like, they didn't need a pilot within them; they were self-running. So we've got John Henry Irons, Steel, Silas Stone. I mean, even Amatech is a comic book with with the head honcho. What was his name? Thomas Weston is another comic book character.
Yeah, it was military in the comics. Amatech was in the Steel book. Amatech has been referenced in, I think, Man of Steel had an Amatech building in Metropolis. And when Superman's doing that flying around during his battle with Zod, and I know it was name checked on the Flash. Weston was not a CEO; he was an actual military. He was a general. I believe it was a general. And the fact that Flip is Natasha Irons. That was another kind of like
Did they say
cuts in this?
I know they mentioned Natasha Irons. Is she his daughter?
Yeah, that's his niece. That's his niece.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the episode, but I swear that he said, because she called him Uncle John.
Oh, because I just thought that she got there before they did. I didn't realize that it was.
I'll have to go back. I might be. You're having me doubt myself. I'm willing to be wrong, which I know on the internet is weird.
No, you could be 100% right. I just didn't pick that up, and it would make sense if it is, because I mean, Flip is not a name; it's just a nickname. I mean, yeah, she could. I mean, they did definitely name drop Natasha as his niece, but I didn't know. I didn't connect in my mind that it was Flip was his was Natasha. But yeah, I will have to go back and check that, and maybe somebody in the comments, if they caught that as well, can let us know if that's what. Oh yeah, JP said yeah, she is. So you, there you are, Michael. I didn't pick that up at all. But then we also got the flying newsroom. That was another reference with the helicopter. That's another deep cut. So yeah, they were going heavy with all the different references in this one.
Yeah, Mark Waid got name checked as a street. I mean, it's just like this one. It was like hitting so hard that I was just like I couldn't recover. It's just like they're amateur. I mean, I knew John Henry was going to be there. That was kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
Online over the course of the last week. I'm really glad. Steel is my favorite of the 4 Supermen that popped up during Reign of the Superman. I've always liked it. And he is, I think, has he been in every? He wasn't in Smallville, which I think they missed a trick there. But he was on the animated series and on
Yeah.
Justice League, which was an extension of the animated series. He was, he's on Superman and Lois. He's on this show. He was in the animated Death and Return film. I'm kind of thinking that he is of that era. He is one of the most adapted characters.
Mm.
I'm not a big fan of that armor, but they took it away from him anyway. So hopefully he'll design something. But I also get why they're doing it, because the show has a real anime feel to it. So it makes sense that their mech suits would be bulkier like this.
Yeah.
But like you're with that picture we're looking at, he's got the hammer. I mean, it's just like I was like, we're getting Supergirl, we're getting Steel, we're getting like all these other Superman related things that I'm just like, wow, this I'm this is one of the reasons why I'm a little upset that, and I hope she feels better. I'm not faulting her, but or them. I may be misgendering. I do apologize if I am. But I just wanted to start gushing about all of the references that were in this episode, and it was a good episode overall.
Yeah.
I got a couple quibbles, but I think they're bringing out, or they're doing a really good job of laying the seeds for Lex Luthor to be a major villain, for him taking over Amertech. I did notice that they do that thing that I hate, because I don't think LexCorp. It should be LexCorp. It's not a core of something.
Yeah.
It is a corporation. Lex Corporation. So it should be LexCorp, but you're going to pronounce it LexCorp. That's fine. Whatever.
No, well, you can bring that up when we do get to speak to Josephine, hopefully next week. Again, I'll get back in touch with her to try to reschedule after she had to pull out sick for today's interview. But yes, I was keen. Had a whole list of questions ready to go, so was really looking forward to getting some answers on some things, including Vicky Vale's offer to Lois to come work for the Gotham Gazette. It's just another thing to try to, put a bit of a wedge in between Lois and her life in Metropolis.
Yeah, I was annoyed by that, because Vicky was spending this entire. I mean, she totally hosed them last season, and she spent this entire episode trying to get one up on Lois, and like hip checking her out of the way. And then at the end, she's just like, am I going to take this? And then on top of that, you have the Clark. We're in Smallville territory, Steve. Clark's got a secret that he doesn't want to tell her, because it might screw things up. And she's got this thing, and she may be going away. And I get, drama is drama is drama, and you need that for the show. There's a part of me that's just like, man, am I built for this anymore?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, last season was all about, secrets, and Clark, and Lois being upset that he was keeping that secret from her, and then Jimmy, the secret, and then the whole thing was no more secrets, and now both of them have something that they're trying to. To be fair, Clark is trying to let Lois know that he has this beacon, that he's, to look for his cousin, and she's got this, thing about whether Vicky Vale's job offer is there, whether she's going to take it. So neither of them are intentionally hiding anything from each other. They just haven't had the opportunity, because life keeps getting in the way of them being able to open up and have a proper conversation. So there was that kind of, as a footnote. But yeah, that was an interesting story there with Lois and Vicky. And then, you had the whole ending where Superman was really unable to save the day without the help of John Henry Irons, and Flip's newsroom being able to help him. So it was all about Clark coming to the realization that he doesn't have to do it alone, that he doesn't have to try to be the savior, as a sole savior of Metropolis, that he can rely on other people's help. And I think that was a nice kind of story element, and a bit of a theme that they got going on.
Yeah, I'm not. there's a little bit of sitcom action going too, with Sam Lane staying with Clark and Jimmy,
And looking unshaven
um,
and disheveled.
looking at the beer cans or some kind of cans all over the floor, uh, and Jimmy Clark trying to get into the apartment so he can change back. It's just like, why don't you have clothes stat? Never mind. This is, I'm thinking too much into this.
Now, some of the comments, John Patrick Van Pelt saying that he thought the steel robot look was much bigger than normal that we normally see, and a little bit bulky. But as you said, now that it's been taken off him by Lex, that there may be a different version of the steel suit coming down the track. And Justin and a couple of others commenting on the Kryptonian. While Jor-El is able to talk English now in that previous episode, he does use some Kryptonian. I think something in the reference to my son, which does have a very Spanish or other, some language, English language, not English, I should say, some human language element to it that people can use as a bit of a translator. I think Josephine in our previous interview did mention that they used a bit of that kind of stuff when they were doing the Kryptonian.
Yeah, they threw in a bunch of different languages. Oddly enough, Esperanto, which Google Esperanto. It's kind of a fascinating idea that they tried to create this universal language. And there's even a movie out there that was filmed entirely in Esperanto starring William Shatner. Because of course there is. I mean,
of course.
Who else?
That's pretty much everything for that episode. It finished nicely. There was a nice moment at the end there, and Lex is becoming, as you said, the villain of the story. But the thing is, he's off the radar as far as Clark, Lois, and Jimmy are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
He's, they're not even aware of his, that he's becoming a thorn in their side. And I wonder, as I said last week, how Jimmy is going to react when he finds out what role he had in, turning Alex's path into Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... the show is doing what a show that is setting out to tell a new version of Superman should do.
Mm-hmm.
Every decision they make, it's like I said, it's not always for me, but it's always internally consistent with itself.
Yeah,
and there are people out there that love this show, and it's bringing in, as we said last season, it's bringing in this whole new audience. Because it's got an animation style that is very contemporary. It's got a fast-paced storytelling. But at the same time, we've just run through all of the Easter eggs and all the references that it made. So it's got its head, pretty much buried in the comics as well. So I have, at this point, I don't really have any complaints about the season so far.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Or real complaints.
John Patrick Van Pelt, another super chat question. How many Lex Luthors have we seen wearing glasses? Not too many.
I can't think of any Lexes that I take that back. And this is super nerdy. There was an episode of Superboy. It was one of the alternate reality episodes. I don't know if it was the Roads Not Taken ones, but there was a alternate reality where Ron Eli, who played Tarzan, was an older Clark Kent. He wasn't Superman because they couldn't call him that. And Lex was in that, and he was wearing a pair of glasses. But villainous Lex, I don't know if I've, maybe in the comics he's worn reading glasses, but I don't think we've ever seen it like this. I mean, even... The closest we've gotten to a Lex like this before would be Jesse Eisenberg in Batman v Superman. There's kind of a similar vibe between the two of them, but even he didn't wear glasses. He just played basketball
and ate red lollies. All right, let's have a look at the promo for. Actually, it's not really a promo trailer. It's more of a opening snippet for the Two Lanes Diverged, which is the title of episode 4 of season 2. Play a little bit of that here. Have a look.
On the next all-new episode of My Adventures with Superman.
Perimeter breach.
Lois!
Dad?
People are after me.
Oh, you always do this.
What does that mean?
Perimeter breach.
My Adventures with Superman. New episode next Saturday at midnight on Tsunami. Next day on Max.
So there you have it. Lois and Sam at it with, what was his name? That big dude that comes at him at the end. He had a name.
What did they call him? He had a specific name too.
Yeah. Someone will remind us in the comments.
Yeah, he was another one of those name checks.
Yes.
Man, can't remember it.
Nah, someone will give it to us in the comments. I'm sure we'll come up with it in a second. But yes, this episode, Jimmy gets invited to the Star Labs Symposium. Clark joins him for support, but Lex Luthor takes over. The General flees and Lois chases after him, struggling to reconcile past experiences with the present situation. Was it Blockbuster?
I'll check over the break.
That's what Justin thinks it was. But yeah. So that's the next episode. So that is Two Lanes Diverged, which will be the fourth episode of season 2 on Saturday night, Sunday morning, whichever way you want to look at it. It's one of the things I wanted to ask Josephine about, what she thinks it is. But anyway, we will get to that when we speak to her, hopefully next week. All right, so that's My Adventures with Superman. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to play some messages. And on the flip side, we are going to do the fan favorite question of the week. We're going to be doing This Week in History. And we've got the costume analysis for Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. We're back right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
If you're enjoying Superman Homepage Live, then please like and share this video with your family and friends. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can click on the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. You can also join our YouTube membership program. Just click the join button below. Or you can become a patron and support our website by going to patreon.com/Superman Homepage.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Kraft Macaroni and Cheese presents new DC superheroes. T-Rex just cooling down his cronies. Has a cheesy nightmare Oni.
Superheroes restore our cheesy harmony.
Make a daring rescue Oni. Save our cheesy macaroni. Kraft presents new DC superheroes macaroni and cheese with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and more. The evil villains overthrown with superpowers Phantasmagoric. T-Rex sure wakes up grateful Oni. For DC superheroes macaroni.
And we're back on Superman Homepage Live, where we are now going to get into our costume analysis segment of our show. This week we are covering the costume of Henry Cavill's Man of Steel, and we are going to have a look at it from head to toe and some interesting elements of this costume. This was the first image that we ever saw of Henry Cavill in the costume in front of the bank vault. We had many a discussion about whether there were red trunks under that shadowy area or not.
Yes, we did.
We could see that there was a belt. We all thought that there might have been the red trunks. We were talking about his hair and his forehead, and we were talking about the length of the cape and We were talking about all manner of things when this image came out, but now down the track, many years later, we will go through it and analyze it, Michael and I, and have a look at just exactly what this costume had, bit by bit, looking at it, from the cape point of view to start with, looking at the way it attaches. I really like this element of the way the cape, it wasn't under the collar, but it did connect underneath in a way that was unique to this costume, because you can still see that there are blue elements of the costume either side of where the red joins in, but it did go underneath that element there of that, collar area without actually going underneath the costume, so to speak, which was an interesting kind of halfway mark. But I did like the way that the folds fell over the shoulder. It looked very regal that way.
Yeah, no, I when the cape was real, because you got to be, you gotta make that clarification, because sometimes the cape was CGI. No, I really liked the way the cape was hooked in. They did try to, like you said, they tried to make it have that tucked in feel to it. But when you hung down to his ankles and flowed nicely, I think the cape was dead on perfect.
Yeah, it was a little bit long for me. The fact that it actually drags and pulls on the ground is, it was. I mean, I don't mind it, but it just, to me, that felt a little bit long. Like, that was like, oh, well, is Henry not tall enough? What did you guys do? Why is the cape? It's like when your pants legs of your trousers are too long and they start tripping you up at the back. But I didn't mind that. But yeah, it didn't have the S on the back, which was an interesting. Again, it just doesn't seem to be that big of a deal these days. I know for a lot of people it is a no-no, but as you said, the cape was CG quite a bit throughout the film, and we saw that throughout filming. Henry would not even have anything on; it would just be the suit, and they would later on digitally include the cape, which was another reason that they don't tend to put the S on the back of the cape when they are digitally doing things, because it makes it difficult for some reason. I know it's difficult to animate by hand, and that's why they didn't use it in Superman the Animated Series, but it shouldn't be that difficult with CG. I just think a lot of people think because the cape has so many folds in it when it is sitting, lax, that you can't really see the S because it has so many folds and overlaps and what have you, that it kind of gets lost. The shape gets lost in there. So I can understand why they don't put it in.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I don't agree. I agree with you that that's the reason. I think it's cowardice at this point.
Yeah.
With CGI technology that but I also, this is going to sound weird, I don't know if it would look good with this version of Superman.
Yeah.
This was going for a very specific tone, and having the S on the back of the cape just wouldn't have worked here.
Yeah, agreed. All right, then we move on to the S shield and the body. Now, there's a lot of detail in this costume when you get up close, as this camera his photograph, I should say, reveals. Similar with Brandon Routh's costume, there are a lot of little symbols or details in the way that the costume is. It's not just a flat, straight, lycra. It has embossing. It has a chainmail type of look to it. There's not little Superman symbols like there was in the Superman Returns suit, but it's almost like a chainmail type of feel to the embossing on this costume.
Yeah, we're talking about the body, right?
Yes.
Or are we talking about the S shield? Okay, the body I like mostly.
Mm-hmm.
The gauntlets on the sleeves is, I could take or leave. I think the main problem with the body is in the middle, that weird design thing that was kind of there. It looked like to kind of break it up. I just never liked it. I never thought it looked good. I think they were trying way too hard not to do like either a red belt or the trunks or anything. and it struck me. It just never really appealed to me. On the other hand, the way they set the suit up in the movie is that it's an undergarment for like armor almost.
Mm-hmm.
So like Jor-El was wearing something similar that he kind of strips out of when he's diving in to get the codex. So I think again, it's something that works for this version of Superman.
Yeah.
It's just there's tiny little details that I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah. I agree with you on the etchings around the costume, around the sides. They tried to kind of to break it up a little bit. I understand it had Kryptonian designs and that it, as you say, it was an undergarment that when you'd have the armor over the top, it would probably make more sense. But they did need to break up something because of no trunks, which we'll get to in a second. But let's have a look at the S-Shield to start with. This was one element that I actually really liked. I liked the S-Shield design, the shape of the S. It had a golden age feel to it in some ways. It had like an Earth 2 kind of feel to it in some ways. But it wasn't flat. It wasn't just part of the costume, but it also wasn't too raised like the Superman Returns one. It didn't feel like it was applied. It was always part of the costume, but it did have a bit of that raised element to it. The red, the yellow. The yellow didn't pop as much as it does here. It sometimes looked a lot dirtier and a lot darker, but the fact that they went with a red and yellow S, I like the size of it. It feels right, fits the chest right. It's high enough just underneath what was sometimes a little bit of a lower, I mean, when you could see Henry Cavill's hairy chest hairs poking out from the top of that collar, you could understand, but it actually sits really well, and this was probably the best part of the costume for me was the S and the way it sat.
That was the first time I noticed that was when I bought my Blu-ray player. My first Blu-ray player, and Man of Steel was the only Blu-ray I had. I'm sitting there watching the film. I'm really close to the TV. I'm like, are those chest hairs? Okay, whatever. I'm 100% with you about this S symbol. It was the first time I saw it, I fell in love with it. Yeah. I thought it was a sleek design. Like you, I thought it had kind of an Earth 2 Superman kind of feel to it. The fact that it's not one like solid yellow piece on the top there. It's kind of split off with the swoop coming down. It's the perfect size. It's the one thing that through all of the films I was 100% happy with. It was just like, I was like, that's a good design. They really knocked that one out of the park.
Yeah. In Batman v Superman and Justice League, they fiddled with it a little bit by putting some Kryptonian writing within the red of the S, which I thought was unnecessary. It didn't need it, but it's something they decided to add later on. But yeah, we mentioned that there are no trunks.
Nope.
That was a massive departure from other costumes. It didn't, like, when you see it in imagery, it looks a little bit weird because you feel like there's something missing when you're a traditionalist and you like the classic look. But throughout the movie, it didn't make that big a deal. And like most things, when you see things in action, in movement, it didn't really become a bugbear for me. It wasn't really a point that just kind of I couldn't get past. It was fine after a while.
Yeah, I wasn't happy that it didn't have more to break up with it, but we had lost the trunks right around the same time period that the suit was revealed in the New 52. So it was just one of those things like, yeah, okay. The thing that I noticed more often than not is when they would show shots of Superman, they rarely had like full body shots. It was usually like from the waist up or him flying. And I felt they kind of did the same thing on the covers of the Rebirth era. Like, they did their best in Rebirth, I think, on the covers to not show him from the waist down very much, because it wasn't as classic looking the suit that existed at the beginning of Rebirth. And it goes along with the belt too. There really isn't a belt.
Yeah, it was weird.
There's like a buckle in the middle.
Buckle. What was the point?
Which which changed shape um, between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. But like you said, when he's in action, you don't really notice it. And here, it's. I'm sorry. This picture looks like he's thrusting his crotch towards the camera, and I think that's probably an optical illusion. He looks really surprised. Like, am I doing that? But really, the midsection, along with the detailing, it's the one weakness because it kind of looks. When you look at it, like in this picture, it looks kind of like a onesie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it kind of was forgiving because Henry Cavill's physique really was, it just made him look like a bodybuilder, and he was just, fit out the costume so well that, it wasn't that big a deal. But then you got the red boots were another part that I really liked. Yeah, it had that chainmail kind of design to it, but it has the dipping V at the front. It goes, probably the right amount of height as far as I'm concerned. It feels like it's part of the costume. They're not bulky like the Superman Returns ones were. They have barely a heel. It's almost like, dance shoes at the bottom there. So all in all, I was happy with the boots.
Yeah, me too. I hope those were comfortable.
Yeah.
Because they don't look very forgiving in terms of walking around with them. It's like when you find out that in the 1989 Batman film, those boots that he was wearing were actually Nike cross trainers, which the stunt guys and Michael Keaton appreciated. No, but there's a shot in the film when he's coming out of the Sears, and Colonel Hardy says, "This man is not our enemy," where they like have a shot of the cape and the boots. I'm like, God, that's perfect. It's like 100% what you want from the comics. So it's really weird that this costume. It's just like from the waist up, it's okay. From the waist down, it's okay. It's just the waist.
There you have it. And as far as Henry Cavill was concerned, yeah, look, he has such a great iconic look about him. This is probably not the greatest photo. I mean, that photo where you see he looks surprised. This is in the middle of a fight scene, but as far as like this photo here, his hair looks great. It doesn't have the spit curl, but it still had that wavy look about it. It was pretty long here compared to the other movies that he was in, but he just had that square jawline, the good looks, the rugged good looks. It just screamed Superman. It was not Christopher Reeve, but there were similarities enough that they're Superman.
Mm-hmm. No, he looked like the character, and in that shot, and especially in the Smallville scenes like this, he kind of looks like Christopher McDonald, who did the voice of Jor-El on the animated series. But if you ever see like pictures of that guy, he's kind of got that wavy hair.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, really strange that you have a Superman that looks so much like Jor-El. But no, I had no. Do I like when you have the spit curl? Yes. Is it a deal breaker? No, because then I would have to take points away from like George Reeves, who had the slicked back hair. So it's just I think as long as you can look at the guy and say, "Hey, that looks like Superman," and it's funny. I remember years ago there was this thing. It's just like none of the Bruce Waynes look alike. Why do all the Supermen look alike? I go, because he's not wearing a mask. You can put just about anybody in a cowl and he'll look like Batman. The suit's doing a lot of the work. With Superman, the actor's face has to match it. So you have to have somebody that you look like and go, oh, that looks like Superman. And Cavill had that in spades.
Yeah. So this costume, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Shockingly, I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay.
I like this costume more than I think people who have heard me complain about elements of this version of Superman might be surprised that I'm giving it such a high mark. But I really liked it. It was a costume that from the beginning I was just like, that's okay. people in the comments are complaining about the coloring. I don't think that has anything to do with the costume. I think that has to do with the saturation of the film and the filters and how they process it. Because I think the costume itself, when you see pictures of it, it's a pretty good blue and a pretty good red. They just made it, they just used the filters and made it darker on the screen.
Yep. All right, so that's our costume analysis of Henry Cavill's Man of Steel costume. We'll push on to next week's version. I'm going to see what we do next week and see which one. We'll probably go Tyler Hoechlin next week, and then we might kind of wrap back around and do some of the variant costumes that some of the other actors have worn that we've missed out on. Do the Superboy ones maybe. We'll see how we go and what the demand is. All right, so that's the costume analysis. Let's jump into the fan favorite segment of our show. All right, Michael, what was our fan favorite question from last week?
What is your favorite Jimmy Olsen comic cover? And Lorenzo Valdez wrote, for my favorite Jimmy Olsen cover, I submit a recent one from Joshua Williamson's current run, Superman #6, with this awesome Jamal Campbell cover featuring Jimmy right beside Lois and Superman in a powerful pose. I also really enjoyed what Williamson did with Jimmy and his relationship with Silver Banshee earlier in the run. Agreed on both. That's a good cover.
Yeah, that is a great cover. So thank you, Lorenzo. All right, JP Rocha sent in these images. Oh, this image, sorry, says, my favorite Jimmy Olsen cover is from Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen 121. How sick is Jimmy? And I would hate to be Jimmy when he miraculously gets better.
Tell me your secret identity. I'm dying. It's just like, okay, I'm Clark Kent. Okay, this...
yeah.
I only thought this halfway through, so... John Patrick Van Pelt wrote, I found these cool Jimmy Olsen comic book covers that I like. Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen number 114 from 1954. Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen 134, featuring the first appearance of Darkseid. Darkseid, by the way, is just on a screen. You don't actually see like full Darkseid in that issue. And then Jimmy Olsen one-shot from 2011. And my final one, Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen number 39 from 1959. That's a good Kurt Swan cover.
Yes, a nice collection. Thank you, John Patrick Van Pelt. All right, Ramel he actually gave us a pronunciation for his name. So Ramel, it's Katunkin. So Ramel Katunkin sent in this image saying, my favorite Jimmy Olsen cover is this one by Kurt Swan, Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen number 44 from April 1960. Jimmy turns into the Wolfman of Metropolis. This era and look suits Jimmy and his teenage exploits. Oh, cool. Thank you very much, Ramel.
I was a teenage Wolfman. Elliot Quadrado wrote, my favorite Jimmy Olsen cover would easily have to be Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen number 53. As soon as I saw that you guys had this as the next question for this week, this was the issue that instantly popped into my head. I actually tried looking for it on DC Universe Infinite, but sadly it's not there. Yeah, a lot of the Silver Age isn't there, sadly. But no, that's one of those quintessential. It's him as Turtle Man.
Yep.
Which they would reference in the comic books,
yes,
or in the
indeed.
post-crisis era as well.
Yep, and it was even part of that promo that they put together. Marking the Action Comics. The Superman's what was it? 75 year? Yeah. So there you have it. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your favorite Jimmy Olsen covers for the fan favorite question. Our new question is, what is your favorite Perry White comic book cover? So we're going through the characters. Send us your favorite Perry White comic book cover to the email address on your screen. It is info@supermanhomepage.com, info@supermanhomepage.com, and we will read out and show the favorite images of your Perry White comic book covers when we return to this segment next week. All right, let's jump into This Week in History.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bonds of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
Alrighty, we're going to start in 1964 with 80-page giant number 1, which is a Superman annual that has a lot of really cool stories in it the day Superman turned to crime and if Superman retired. I'm going to be pushing for DC to start doing these as their facsimile editions. I think you do a lot of killing two birds with one stone by doing the annuals, because you get like really good, really classic stories, but in that format. 1974, we have Justice League of America number 113, which was a JLA JSA crossover. And we find out what happened to Sandy the Golden Boy from who was the partner to Sandman. 1984, we have DC Comics Presents number 73 in a wonky cover of Superman fighting the Flash. I'm not sure what's going on with anything on the figure work on this cover. 1994, getting more into to my neck of the woods. You got Action Comics number 701, which continues the fall of Metropolis and Superman fighting against Lex Luthor in a Kryptonian battlesuit. Justice League America Annual number 8, which is an Elseworld story. So that's not strictly speaking Superman. Superman Doomsday Hunter Prey number 3, finishing out that prestige format miniseries where we learn the origin of Doomsday. And a personal favorite, though people are like, really? Why? Worlds Collide, number 1, which was kind of the halfway point of that storyline. This came in 3 editions. There was a standard one. There was one with a color forms cover where you had vinyl cling so you could design your own cover. And shockingly, there was a platinum edition of this thing.
Wow.
That had kind of a silver thing. And yes, I have that one. Popped up at a comic shop I was going to years ago, and I'm like, I gotta have that. Because, I'm me. Jumping ahead to 2004, we got Justice League Adventures number 32, which doesn't have Superman on the cover, but I'm sure he's inside. And we're almost at the end of Superman Birthright, getting to that origin, which stuck around for such a long time. And that's nothing against Mark Waid or Linnell Francis Yu. That's strictly on the shoulders of DC Comics there. And 2014, still in the Doomed, Enemy of the State. I don't remember this. I really remember very little of the story. It was only 10 years ago, Steve. We should have more memory of it than we do.
I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
So, in the real world, June 2nd, which was yesterday, it's the birthday of Stephen Bender, who was born in 1989. He was young Clark Kent in Superman Returns. And June 5th, in 1905, was the birth date of Wayne Boring, a classic Superman artist who I have recently discovered amongst some Silver Age fans, they don't like him. They don't like the art, and I am very, very happy that Superman fans being picky about artists is universal amongst the generations. But that is this week in history.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michael. That was awesome. So we managed to get through tonight's episode. We had to wing it for a bit there with Josephine having to pull out last minute for personal reasons, unwell today. So we hope to get her back and reschedule another time. Hopefully next week we'll let you know, or we'll announce that on the website. But thank you, Michael. Appreciate your support and co-hosting the show with me tonight.
Oh, pleasure as always, Steve.
And thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. We appreciate your support and your financial support of the show. Thank you very much. Want to thank everyone who tuned in and spent the last hour with us in the comments there. We appreciate your company and really love having our live viewers with us each and every week. Michael and I will be back next week with Mark Lax, and hopefully Josephine will let you know on Monday, June 10th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time for another edition of Superman Homepage Live. Hope you'll join us then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey. Thanks for watching Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. Good night.